Coach Doc, welcome to the very, very first episode of my brand new podcast called Quick Before You Forget, a show dedicated to empowering other people to find their happy, choose their joy, and do it in the ways, their version of the ways that have worked for me, which is music, mindset, and movement. And you, my sir, have been a transition figure in my life in this area. And I am so grateful to have you on today. For those that don't know, Coach Doc is known to many as Coach Doc, but his name is Dr. Antonio Harrison. He is a scientist, an educator, a former athlete and coach, and a lifelong student of what it takes to actually make real, impactful change in your life. He works at the intersection of discipline, compassion, and lived experience. And today, we are focusing on his story. Coach Doc, welcome to Quick Before You Forget.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be your first guest, and I'm excited to be here.
I am so grateful. So part of what I do in the world and online is I ground myself in gratitude, and I ground myself in finding things to be grateful for on an everyday basis that might just be fairly little or small or things that we would otherwise miss. But in presence, we find gratitude because we can stop and we can look and we can find things to be grateful for, even in challenge, especially in challenge. So I'm here talking with you today, and I had to start there because I am so grateful for your belief in me, for your encouragement of me, for the time that we've spent together doing my favorite workout, which is Supernatural. You've been in the headset with me, alongside me, working hard, and we've never met. This is our first time actually talking. So that is a gift and a blessing. And I had to start there with the very real gratitude that I have for this day, for this conversation, and for the role that you've played in my personal transformation and growth. So that's the foundation for this whole conversation today.
Awesome. Well, first, I should probably hire you for any bios that I'm ever gonna have, because that was awesome and amazing. But I will say that you probably aren't aware of this, but I am super grateful for you as well. I know a little bit about your story and have been watching you on social, and it has given me the courage today to share something that I just have never shared before, talking about growth and change. And so, yeah, it's you that made me want to come on here and just be completely honest about what I've been doing over the past year.
Wow. I am touched to my soul. Thank you for that. And tell me this thing that you're ready to share. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, 2024, I was engaged in some pretty self-destructive behavior. And with, my dad's from Louisiana, so he's got this superstition of like things happen in threes, right? We also don't let black cats cross our path. We can't get the opposite way. And I've always been, well, not always, but at least in my adult life, been spiritual and all about the universe and understanding it mostly too from a scientific perspective, but then incorporating spirituality. But with those self-destructive behaviors, and then my middle son, who driving him to school one day was just like, after school, can we go get a Bible? And I was like, okay, why? And he's like, well, I really like Psalms and Proverbs that I've been seeing, and I want to know more about it. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm really happy that you made a choice. And it was something that I had been periodically trying, once at 12, once in college, and like at 20. And I decided, you know what, for the year 2025, I'm going to commit to finding God's love, if that was going to be possible for me, if it was something that was going to happen. And so that's what I committed to for the whole year, documenting the whole thing and writing a series of 5 books.
5 books.
Yeah. I'm a former high school football coach, so I had to break it up as it's called Finding God. Hopefully it's not taken title, or I can still use it, but Finding God, and it's pregame in quarter 1 and then quarter 2, and then there's a halftime show, and then there's quarter 3, quarter 4, and overtime. Right. So that's I just finished editing the very first one and hopefully going to drop it pretty soon. My middle son is designing the cover of the book because he's also an artist, and he's the one who really gave me the courage at that moment to say, all right, let's try it. If you're willing to try it at 12, 13, why shouldn't I? So, and I have not shared that yet. And we just entered 2026, and it's because of all of the reservations, how people are so divided, how people can be nasty, and also my previous feelings on the whole topic. And, but I told myself today when you asked for this conversation that, and maybe I didn't tell myself, something else told me. It was like, all right, here's your opportunity.
Let's go. I am so excited to can I read it? I really
Yeah,
want
of
to read
course.
it. I am so excited for you because this is something that is so needed right now. And it's hard to step out of that box of deciding like your voice matters and your story matters. And one of the things that I've come to love about you and your content and the business that you build around, helping other people find and figure out their story as strength, and finding their story to be the whole point, honestly, and understanding and recognizing that there's purpose in our story. It's beautiful that you are now putting that out into the world, and I cannot wait to read it. And you said your son is 12?
He's 13 now,
13
but when he wanted to
when
do
we
that.
started. So are you guys reading the Bible together? Like how did that go once he got his Bible?
He did what most 12 or 13-year-olds do. He has it, he opens it to a section he likes, he reads it when he wants to. And I said, did you want to read together? And he's like, so I was like, it's your thing. Do you however you want to do that. But then I decided that I was actually going to buy one and read from front to back cover, which I
Oh,
did in 2025. And so yeah, I dove in deep. Like I really dove in head first and gave a real commitment to it to see what the outcome would be for myself.
what that is a huge undertaking and something to take very seriously. That is a lot of time and a lot of thought that went into the time. It wasn't just reading. I know that about you. You absorbed so much. Was there a moment when you were reading through and working through the Bible all through last year? Was there a moment, I'm guessing maybe there were more than one, but was there a moment that really stood out to you as, wow, this is God is here with me with this situation, and he's at work through this passage, through this verse. Is there something that stands out to you from your time reading through the whole Bible?
One of the things that it's funny, we talk about social and how the algorithm feeds things, but it's also energy. And no matter how much time I spend on something and the algorithm wants to feed me more, there would be moments of reading verses or moments of scrolling through social and something catching my attention and diving into it more than going back. I was committing to prayer 3 times a day, which I never had done before or knew how to do. And there were a lot of ups and downs. Nothing about it was easy. I will say there are 2 things that stick out. One was a guy I saw talking about 2 twins in a womb. I'm talking about like, do you think there's life outside of the womb? And they took the perspective of one of the twins basically saying like, yeah, there's nothing here. Like, this is it. This is all. And the other person was saying, no, I think we walk. I think we are, I think we go on and see a different world and different light. And the first one was like, no, we're attached to like, what are we going to eat? How? Mom is attached to the umbilical cord. And they were saying, well, I think mom's real in the sense of if you listen, you can hear her. And, so it was this analogous moment of belief and non-belief. And so that was one that just kind of stuck out to me like, wow. Because, right, I would assume that as a baby in the womb, there are thoughts happening, there are things going on, right? Like you are a human being.
Right.
No matter, you're exposed to an environment, just not the environment of the world out here as we know it. So that was one of the positive things that made me really stop and think. One of the negative things took a lot to overcome. So, I go into film and I have to drive like 2 hours to get to work. It's LA, right? Oh,
2 hours, my gosh.
yes. It's bananas.
One
Um,
way.
One way. So I dropped my son off at school. And when I would drop him off to school, I'd get on Google Maps and it would shoot me the best route. And it kept taking me down this street and I'd get about 2 miles away from the school. And there would be these two elderly Black women sitting at this park with like a poster with a pamphlets on God. And they reminded me of my granny, my dad's mom, like so much, just so much. And something kept telling me, like, you got to go talk to these ladies, go talk to them. And so one day when I wasn't filming and I was like, you know what, I'm going to take my coffee, I'm going to grab a chair and I'm going to go see if I can talk to these women. And so I got up the courage and I went and I parked and I sat in the car for like 5 minutes. And when I got out, I walked up and I was like, excuse me, do you guys mind if I sit and chat with you? And they're like, about what? And I was like, I wanted to talk to you about my journey and like things I'm thinking and reflecting on and the obstacles I'm running into and trying to overcome. And you remind me so much of my grandmother, both of you, that something called me to be here. And there was one woman who you could see she got a smile from ear to ear, but before she could say anything, the other woman shut it down. She was like, we're not here to talk. Like, you can take a pamphlet, you can come to church, or like you can go sit over there at this table where there are these elderly men and like they're conversing and having conversations. And I was like, but it was called on my heart to talk to you guys. Like, can I sit in there? Like, no, we're not here for that. And just totally turned me around, chair and coffee in hand, back to my car. And I sat in my truck and was just floored. And then I called my wife and I was like, you wouldn't believe what just happened, and she talked me through it and then also mentioned how she once went to, because she grew up Catholic. She doesn't, go to church or mass or anything, but she will stop at church when it's empty to pray for herself. And she went once when our marriage was having some troubles and went to go talk to a priest. And his response to her was, well, that's what you get. You married someone outside of the religion. Right. So she had gone through something similar. And it was just a moment for me to understand again that people are people, right? They're going to do what they want to do and believe what they want to believe. And that I didn't need to walk into a congregation or a church to have a relationship with God.
Amen.
And I didn't need the approval from these two women to continue my relationship or allow them the power to crush it.
Amen.
So I, drove around trying to find a church to go sit in, and I sat in one and like I didn't feel it. And then I went to the gym. And as I was sitting in the car, I just got like a really nice text that kind of snapped me out of it and got me back going. So I got moving.
Do you remember who the text was from or what it said?
The text was from one of my boys because I send them. So I have 3 boys and they all now have their own phones. And so separately every day at lunchtime, I send them affirmations. Like, and they're not affirmations I look up. They're things that are just, I want to say, and they all 3 get the same one. And one of my sons just responded back, love you too. That was it. And I was like, all right, we're good. Let's go lift.
Amen. Well, Matthew 5:16, be the light, right? And you were the light that day. And we don't know what happened before you walked up to those ladies. We don't know what happened after you walked up to those ladies. And I would like to think, and maybe it's the eternal optimist in me, but I would like to think that even though she shut it down, you got into her head and, it did some good in there, even though it might not have seemed like it in the moment. And we are gifted with the gift of connection to so many people that come into our path, and you just never know. You never know what else was going on that day or why she shut you down. This kind of speaks to the whole Mel Robbins "let them" concept, where you let them, but you did what was right in your heart, and you followed what you felt called to do, and that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. that requires a level of self-awareness and bravery to walk up to a couple of strangers and
Yeah.
want to talk about Jesus. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, it was the first time I've ever done something like that. So, in terms of talking about God, so it was a lesson learned, but a good one, and something I'll remember forever, and maybe they will too.
I think they will. And I'm grateful for the sun that was the light for you that day. He is reflecting the light that you shared with him, which is where it's really cool. That's a cool full circle moment as a parent to get a little bit of light back when you really needed it. So, speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, because we talk about story being one of the most important tools we have, especially in moments that challenge us, or make things feel harder maybe in the moment than they really are. What is, for good or bad, a childhood memory that shaped who you are and who you've become?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of them. I will say that, I played ball all my life. It started playing competitively at 4 years old, played college ball, and um, that was my safe haven, school and sports, because I got to leave home. I loved my parents. My mom, one of the hardest working women I know, used to work 2 to 3 jobs, seasonal jobs, just to make ends meet. My dad, unfortunately, we live in Los Angeles in the late 80s, early 90s when the crack epidemic hit. That was a real thing. Like, it was in my home. And once my mom couldn't hide it anymore and had to share why Christmas gifts would go missing, or family jewelry would be gone, or dad would be gone for 3 or 4 days, or a couple months because he was in county jail, like, it was because he had become addicted to the drug. And then once the cat was out of the bag, he just used at home, right? So that was a real thing inside of my household. And we only grew up with one side of the family. So most of all of my family I knew were either on drugs, selling drugs, or gang members. And that was it. So sports was my way out of all of it. Going to school, I loved it because I got to just be away from everything. So that really shaped my independence. Some would say maybe it robbed you of innocence as a child. However, like, I had to be an adult really, really fast with adult concepts and face reality of what people are capable of, what the world's capable of, in both positive and negative ways, because there were a lot of people who helped me. Um, but there was no time for play anymore. Like, there just wasn't. Right. And the only play I got was when I was on a football field or a basketball court or in a swimming pool. And that was it. At school with my friends, because the moment that was over, and even that to a certain extent, because I knew that was the means of how I was going to get out of the situation. So it didn't have the same feeling of just recreation. No, this was my ticket. Right. So I took it. So that really, really shaped. There's another moment I mentioned in the book too that was also really shaped my life. I don't get nervous like other people do. I don't get anxious. I remember I made a post like asking people what is it like to feel anxiety all the time, because I just don't I don't experience it. You either do the thing or you don't, and that's that. But I remember I was talking to my dad when I was, I think, like 10, 11 years old. And we were talking about something, and he was telling me how he had to defend himself in a moment. And one of the things he said that straight out of his mouth, stone cold face, was, "I fear no man, for even Jesus bled." And I was like, oh, so we're not supposed to be scared of anything. Okay. But, as 11, like, all of a sudden I can't be afraid. Which has helped me in my life later down the road because I've taken risks. But imagine being 11 years old and being like, I can't be scared of anything. And my dad just told me I can't be scared of anything. Right. So those were some big pivotal things that really shaped all the experiences I had.
It's interesting that you're specifically 11 years old, and I'll tell you, my oldest just turned 12. So I asked him on his birthday, which is on New Year's Eve, so just last week, I asked him,
Belated birthday.
I will tell him you said so. He's actually done some workouts with you as well, so that's really cool, and he'll be excited. So thank you. And he turned 12, and I asked him, what was the most important lesson you learned as an 11-year-old? And his exact words were, face your fears head on. And it's just interesting how this concept of fear can work for you, and you
Yeah.
can lean into it and feel like it's pushing you to something good. And as somebody that has been practicing as long as you have at not being afraid, it makes the whole thing the story with the ladies from the church even more respectable, in my opinion, because you did kind of have a little fear in that moment. You kind of faced it right away, and it didn't go as you planned. And I want to know, as somebody that has worked through fear was one of the things that I faced last year, and I feel like I came out of 2025 more fearless than I would have expected, or I guess even hoped for. And I'm grateful for that, but it's taken so much inner work and so much practice and so much rewiring to decide to be excited instead of fear. Because as a friend of ours, Coach Mark, talks about, fear and excitement are the same chemical in your brain, and you choose the fear or the excitement. So I've chosen excitement in scary situations, and it's changed me for the better in every single instance. But as somebody that is fearless, just naturally, it sounds like, because of the growth that you've experienced through the years, what is your advice for people who are scared? I mean, we're living in a really strange, scary time in general. So what would your advice be to somebody who is walking around with that weight of anxiety and fear and uncertainty in what feels like a pretty uncertain time?
I think of a few things, and you kind of touched on one already, which is flip the narrative, right? I will tell my boys, I'll tell myself, and I always have, it's not fear I'm experiencing, it's nervousness. Those are two completely different things. It's okay to be nervous. There's nothing to be afraid of. If I ask the question or try to do the thing and it fails, well, I'm right back to where I started. And I know what that experience is like. That's why I've never been afraid to take risks. And my mom would always be like, you need to get a secure job and make sure that you can get retirement funds and 401k and health insurance. And I was never scared of taking chances because we grew up eating ramen for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at moments. So I know what that feels like. Why would I be scared to go back there? I've experienced it. And that's the second part I think it parlays into, which is you have the data already on yourself. If you went back as far as you could and you listed out everything in the negative that has ever happened to you, you made it through. You're still here. You showed them, whether you attempted to or not, or it was deliberate, or you slugged through it, like you had the resilience to be where you are now. You have the evidence showing you the proof and the truth. Why are you not listening to that? You are projecting an assumption, right, about what potential be. And I always tell people, like, for you to assume the worst that's going to happen, how arrogant is that? You're trying to assume what is actually going to happen. And instead, you could flip it and be like, well, what's the best that could happen? Right? I don't know. Right? I just had this conversation with my middle son, who's started to go to the gym with me because he's really into football and training. And he saw one of his good friends who has a really, really, really attractive girlfriend, and he just didn't get it. Like, he did. I guess his friend's not the best looking guy in the world, apparently. So like, he just said, and I was like, I know why. And he's like, why? I was like, I've never met your friend, but I bet you your friend is not scared to talk, is he? He's like, nah, he talks all the time and he's funny. I was like, yeah, your friend takes more shots than you do, than other people do. There's so many people that'll give you opportunities, not just in the dating world, but in the world in general, if you just go ask and present yourself. But you're so scared to do that because you're afraid of rejection that you don't. But if they reject you, aren't you exactly where you were before you started? If not even a little better because you went through it and went, that wasn't as scary as I thought.
We struggle for whatever reason with making the ask. It's tough because you do. I think the fear of rejection is very real, as is the fear of failure. And both of those fears can work for us in the ways that you described. It's really, really cool when you can start to think through how we can flip that script and how we're in control. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's interesting too, because I think a lot of people's fear of failure is something that I experienced was actually not a fear of failure. It's a fear of success.
Mm.
You're so comfortable with where you are and what the situation is that it's familiar. You're actually scared of what happens if everything works out in your favor. What are you going to be? How do you handle that? If you do all the things you know you're supposed to do and all the great stuff comes with it, how scary is that? It's pretty scary because you don't know what that means, right? To be thrusted into some sort of limelight, money, attention, anything of that nature, like, wow, it's a lot to take on, right? So a lot of my fear was not actually failure. It was the flip side when I realized it was the fear of success. I'm worried about being seen. Who's going to come from lurking from the shadows and say something crazy?
And let them.
Yeah, my kids love me. My wife loves me. Like, I'm good. My family loves me. Yeah. You cancel me. What does that mean? You're not going to watch my social media videos? Okay.
And we attract, we don't chase, right?
Yeah.
So your people find you, regardless, and I'm grateful that that is true. As it's come true for me on more than one occasion, and is why we're even having this chat right now. So you've talked a bit about the sports and the athletics in your early life, and that actually reminds me of a story I wanted to share with you about
Oh,
Bobby Herrera. Bobby wrote the book. I wonder if I could do this without wrecking the microphone. Wrote the
you
book,
got it.
The Gift of Struggle, and the first chapter, and I am fortunate enough to have a signed copy. The first chapter, he shares a story about the bus. And what happened on the bus was he was 17 years old, and him and his brother were on the basketball team. And the basketball team used to go to get dinner after a win to celebrate together. But his family was they didn't have a lot of money, limited in resources. So his mom always packed them a bag lunch. And on that day in particular that he tells in the story, him and his brother were sitting there eating their burrito. The team had got off and gone on with dinner at, Culver's or whatever it was. And the coach came back on the bus and said, "Boys, it would make me very happy to treat you to dinner with the team." And I get like chills and emotional because I know what's coming. But he treated them then to dinner on the team, and his name was Mr. Teague. And Mr. Teague is somebody that will live in my mind rent free because he that day made Bobby feel seen with his brother and that is such a gift that you can give to somebody. And I'm wondering, as I've been thinking about the whole purpose of this podcast, part of it is really trying to make ways for people to feel seen and heard and to share their story. And I'm wondering from you, Coach Doc, what is a example for you? Who is somebody in your life that got back on the bus to help you and, help you feel seen in your life that became a transition figure and ended up, transforming the trajectory of things?
I will give you one that has almost directly correlated to the story, but I can't leave out another one. So the first one is Miss Atkinson. The 10th through 12th grade, I went to a private school in one of the most affluent cities in all of the nation. I mean, I think tuition at the time was 29 to 31,000 a year. Yeah.
That's like, you said college that we were talking.
Oh, high school.
Wow. And when was this?
This was 98 to 2001.
So I can't even comprehend the money that would be today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, um, they didn't, private schools don't have cafeterias and free lunch. They don't. Canteens where you buy stuff.
Right.
And I had about 10 to 15 people I would put in rotation where I would ask 5 of them for $1 each day so I could get $5 to have a lunch because I didn't have the means for that.
Right.
Miss Atkinson, her son was one of my good friends. He was my middle linebacker and fullback on a football team. And every game day, my senior year, because she packed a lunch for Chase, her son, every day. Every game day on Fridays, she would pack a second lunch for me with a handwritten note on a sticky note inside the lunch, wishing me luck, telling me she loved me, telling me thank you for being her son's friend, and to make sure that I had enough nutrients in my body to go out and play a game that day. I got to share that with my kids, driving them to school one day and telling them the importance of being kind. And I had Miss Atkinson's number, and I just called her on Bluetooth while we were driving to tell her how much that meant to me in front of my boys so they could feel that. So that's one, Miss Atkinson. Love her to death. The other one was my high school football coach, Tom Fry. His soul passed away a while back. He was my entire senior year, which was probably one of my most sports seasons work on. And my entire senior year, my dad was locked up and he missed all of it. Fry stepped in without being asked to be my surrogate dad. He took all the tapes, this is back before we had computer technology and we had VHS, right? So he took all the VHS and cut them up to make a highlight reel of my senior year for my dad. I got arrested at 16 for DUI and possession. Who was there to bail me out at 3:00 in the morning? Tom Fry with my mom. When I found out my wife and I were conceiving our first son, and I knew we had to find a place to start living. And I shared with him just, hey, I want to let you know, this was, I was out of high school. I want to let you know I'm having a son. And also, if you know anybody, he's renting places. He's like, well, I just acquired this place from my mom. I'm totally comfortable living in my apartment. He's always been a single guy. He's like, take it, go. You can pay very minimal rent. And that got us started.
What a gift.
Yeah. He was like that for so many kids, but me, someone who didn't look like my classmates, didn't come from the same background or money as my classmates, which caused a lot of problems, especially too inside of the classroom with some of the teachers, because our cultures and our attitudes and personalities would clash. I'm not adult looking as a kid. I had to do adult things since I was 10, talk to me on your level, which I get. Maybe not right for a 16, 17-year-old to think that way, but that's how I was thinking. He was the one who stepped up for me, who would say, no, you guys are wrong about this kid. You just wait and see. So Mr. Fry and Coach Fry and Miss Atkinson.
Well, I'm sorry you've lost Coach Fry now, but Miss Atkinson, you gave her such a gift that day. You gave your kids a gift, you gave yourself a gift, and you gave her a gift. And that gift is that you picked up the phone and said, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that is something that is we kind of overlook it, I think, sometimes. And, one of the challenges that I wanted to present when I talk through this story in this show is I want to challenge people to, if they hadn't already, which you already had, but if they hadn't already, to give them a call or shoot them a note or something, because the impact that they had, they may not even know. And just having that come full circle like that is such a beautiful gift. So I'm grateful that you had both of them in your life. And, I was touched by the fact that you called Miss Atkinson and did it with your kids in the car. And you're such a inspirational model of what it looks like to pay it forward. That's beautiful.
And I have, for anyone listening and for you, used to do. I don't do it anymore, but it brought such joy to my heart. I used to carry a little bag of marbles, and I wouldn't do it with strangers. It would be someone in my life who meant something. To say thank you to them, I would give them and say, I just wanted to share gratitude and tell you how much I love you and thank you. And I'd give them this marble, and I'm like, you can do whatever you want with it. Keep it in your pocket, put it on your mantle. But like, this is just a little token. Like, I want you to have a tangible thing to show how much I appreciate you. And
I
you'd be
love that.
surprised how much people would love, like, just take the marble and like, oh, thank you. Like, they don't know what they're going to do with it, but they love it so much.
I love that so much. I want to do that. We need to
Well,
do
it's
more.
fun. It
Thank you
also
for
gets you, it's easier to step away from fear and do something courageous when you have a gift to give.
Amen. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It can just be a marble.
It's a marble.
Just a marble. How amazing is that? Um, I think so 2025 was a rough year for a lot of people. And I am thinking about handing somebody a marble in 2026, and that makes me smile.
Right?
But when you think that way, I'm thinking about, how challenge happens for us and how the people come into our lives for a reason. Every single human I've met, I know for sure, has been in my path. Oh my goodness, I don't know if you heard that. The microphone made a loud sound.
Yeah.
Every single person has been in my life for a reason. I'm sure of it. And I wondered if you could share, something I've heard consistently in your story as you shared it with me is that life will hand you all kinds of unexpected things, and there will be a lot that you can't control. And one of the things that you can control is how you react to those things, and how these things that are hard and feel like challenge happen for you, not to you. And I'm wondering, for somebody that feels like life is too heavy and life is very hard right now, what is one super simple, easy way that you've fine-tuned to find and work through how things happen for us, not to us?
It's a great question. Um, Part of me wants to stay still and breathe and just sit. But I know that can be very daunting for someone who's beating themselves up, feeling the weight of it all. But I will say this about staying still. Whether it's meditation, sitting and having your coffee, painting, whatever it may be, a lot of people take that as a means to an outcome of some sort of enlightenment or peace. But actually, what you're doing is learning to be comfortable and enjoy your own company, right? If I'm going to be by myself, I might as well be in good. And when you're in good company by yourself, it's a lot easier to handle the things that come your way.
Hmm.
But I know that one's it's a little tricky especially if there are these thoughts that are just rolling and they are sitting heavier and heavier and heavier. Another thing I will say is get outside and get into nature. We are stuck in walls or cars all the time, and faces stuck in our phones. Talk to people, strangers too. I don't know. Everyone wears head earbuds now. Everyone is waiting in line and can't be bored and has to look at their phone, as opposed to talking to the person in front of you while you're waiting there for 20 minutes. You might as well. Hey, how you doing? You can always start an easy conversation with a genuine compliment. I really like your shirt.
Amen. Thank you. You are so right, because I have met and befriended some of the most interesting people waiting in lines. It's going to be part of my book. It's going to be part of my messaging. I think that we spend entirely too much time. We get in line and we start to do this and whatever. But I go to theme parks. I like to be first in line for concerts. I like to be first in line for conferences. And those people that you meet in those lines are on the journey with you, and you're not coming into contact with them by accident by any means.
What's the first thing a person does when you give them a compliment? Oh, I really love those earrings, which I do, by the way, Ty.
Thank you.
they go, well, I got them here. Or like, did you make those yourself? I did make them myself. Oh, you made, right? Like people want to share about themselves because they want to be seen. They want to be heard. But if you don't want to do that, if all of that's too scary, another thing she can do is something I did with one of my football players when I was coaching. And I remember he came to my office again, at, an extremely prestigious academic institution. And he had helicopter parents. And he was like, I don't know what to do. Like, what happens if I don't get into college? My life is over. I said, all right, let's talk about this. Okay, I want you to go down the worst possible hole ever. So what happens if you don't get in? Well, I don't know. No. What do you think will happen? My parents will be really upset. Are they going to kick you out? They'll probably kick me out and disown me. Okay. And you'll be what, 18, right? Yeah, I'll be 18. I was like, okay, so the worst thing that you say is going to happen if you don't get into college is your parents are going to disown you. They're going to kick you out of the house. You'll feel like you'll be homeless. What's your next step? Put yourself in that situation. What's your next step? Well, I'd probably ask a friend if I could crash. Do you feel like you got friends who would say, yeah, yeah? Then what would you do? I'd look for a job. What kind of job? Probably something with washing and detailing cars, and then like maybe start my own mobile detail car service. Cool. We have a plan for the disaster. So let's get over that. We know what to do if the disaster happens. There's a plan. Like take the next step. That's it. Nothing else. It's all we're focused on. The one step in front of us, and then the next, and then the next. So if you want to play that in your mind, go down the rabbit hole. But once you get to the bottom of the barrel, okay, then what would I do? What would actually be my next step?
It's interesting. It lines up perfectly with the concept of goal setting and having there be a goal that feels very, very far away and having it feel overwhelming because it is, because you can't go from 0 to 200 miles overnight. And what you said applies not only to that, what's the worst thing that could happen kind of mindset or work that you did, but it also applies to what's the best that could happen and how you can look at the goal that seems overwhelming and far away and break it up into what I've been calling rest stops as little steps along the way. And the one step is what matters. That little one thing that you do that day to progress, that one positive footstep toward momentum really does make a difference and does matter. So,
and those are all goals too. You hit them, right? You wanted to start a podcast. So you wrote some ideas. You bought a mic as the next step. It's phones. You said, all right, I'm going to reach out to somebody. And then that person said, yes, maybe you reached out to another. You prepared, you sent an email, and now we're here.
And I'm so grateful. We're here. We're doing it. We're doing the thing. Right? It's happening. Yes. The big scary thing. My mom actually gifted me this microphone for Christmas, which is a full circle part of my story that I will share just quickly. Is the funny thing about me is my mom named me Ty. So she named me Tyler so she could call me Ty because she thought Ty would look good in print. She also had the backup, right? She also had the backup of Taylor. Taylor was the other option. And she decided that Ty in print sounded stronger. And she did that when I was a wee baby. And now, as you may know, it's right here. It's a little blurry, but my book that I was a best-selling author in is called Triumphs of Transformation. And it sure does feature my name, both the long version and the short version. And then, the fact that my mom kind of gave full circle and gave me my microphone and gave me my setup for this podcast, it's a gift. And she's always believed in me. You need somebody like that in your life who believes in you and sees the vision when you don't. Because my goodness gracious, the vision and the road has been very, very bumpy. Getting here today is not an easy task. And it is something that I've found gratitude for. Even though it's been hard, there have been a lot of challenges that have shaped and made me into who I am, and I wouldn't change a thing. Although it's I never think that way in the moment. You always in the moment, it's like this is the worst thing that could possibly happen. But really, it's all part of the story, and it's all happening for us, not to us, as you helped us kind of reshape and reframe some of that.
And for your listeners and viewers, this right here is a perfect example of how cool it is and how opportunities can present themselves, and you never know, right? You reached out to have this conversation. I say yes, to watch you spark this from ground up to see where you take it, to then go, as I'm sitting here going, oh, I am releasing a book. She is a best-selling author. I should probably email her and be like, where do I go with this? Because I don't know what to do with it. Right? Like, this is how things happen. They don't happen in silos by yourself, right? Like, everyone who says they did it by themselves, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. There was a teacher who cared. There was a coach who cared. The firemen down the street cared when they, made sure that when you went on your school field trip there, that they made you feel comfortable and let you get on. Like, you didn't do it by yourself. It might have felt that way and you've been told that, but you didn't. There were people out there who cared no matter what your situation is.
And we do have that gift of connection to so many people that we don't even realize sometimes. And that speaks to some of what you actually talk through in your workouts, where we talk about how we connect in the headset and we use technology, which in the current era we're living in, it could be different tomorrow. It could be different next week. It will be different next year. Technology is scary. It's one of those things that we talk about, like, being afraid of right now. Meanwhile, technology is the path that led to this conversation. And technology can be used for such good if we filter it through the right lenses. So I am very grateful for I would go as far as to say that maybe technology helped legitimately save my life because of what, but to be clear, it's because of what I chose to consume with that technology and what I chose to do and how I chose to leverage the connection that you can build through the technology. And it's not necessarily that right there is the how, right? And the why is that it, can be scary for people, but you too have talked about it as a source of good, source of connection. So how can we, what would your advice be specifically for people to think about how we can use technology to feel less alone rather than more disconnected?
Well, the first thing I would say is there's an app for everything, right? We always talk about our tribe will find us. Well, you can also find a tribe by going out and seeing and seeking the things that you're interested in. There are groups everywhere that want to meet and talk, right? The other thing is pick up the phone. Reach out to the person. Everybody talks about having really close friends in high school, especially in college, and they're these lifelong friends, and especially if you play on a sports team, there's these brothers in arms. I talked to two or three people from college. One of them is a person if you saw us together, you'd be like, this is the oddest combination I've ever seen in my life, right?
Those are my favorite friend combos.
But we have made a conscious decision to water our relationship to make it grow. We get on a phone call the first of every month. He lives in Iowa. And we talk for an hour, 2 hours, just about anything. It could be serious. It could be philosophical. It could be laughing and jokes. It could just kind of be run of the mill, like, yeah, I was putting up siding on the house. But we've done it for over a decade now. That person will be something special in my life forever. I go and visit him once a year. Say hello. Say hello. Use that technology to reach out, whether it be to strangers if you don't feel comfortable or feel like you don't have anybody, or to someone to someone you miss, someone you love. Like, that's what it's there for. Yeah, it's okay to mindlessly scroll. I like to do that too.
Yeah.
To get caught in that loop. It's fine. It's just like watching TV. You're playing a video game. All right. But again, just like you said, be conscious of what you're consuming. I don't, I'll watch the news, even though I get information on what's happening in the world, but I don't turn on the news the moment I wake up. For what? I'm not trying to be bombarded by that. Also, don't pick up my phone the moment I wake up, right? Um, if I am consuming and I find like, oh, I must be in some kind of mood because the algorithm's sending me a lot of stuff that like, maybe I should switch apps or like get off this or like go do something else, right? But yeah, use that technology to connect with other people. You have the opportunity to do it with people thousands of miles away. And they don't have to even be within your own country, their own state. Like,
It's
eight
an
billion.
opportunity, right?
Yeah.
How many people in the world? Goodness gracious. And they're a gift when you find them. You know, this person that you've spent this time with for the last 10 years has been such a positive impact on your life, and that takes a level of work and commitment, but it's definitely that's not something you do an ROI on because you don't
Oh,
even know the value that you have in a relationship like that. Which brings me to one of my last questions. I'm conscious and respectful of your time, and I wanted to kind of go down a path with you
yeah.
that is inspired by somebody who did pass away, who was a transition figure in my life. His name was Dave Hollis, and he was married to Rachel Hollis. And one of his one of his life lessons that he taught after he's been gone is that he always talked about your 80th birthday, his 80th birthday, and what he wanted to see and who he wanted to have be there and what he wanted them to say about his life and what he wanted to say about his life. And then unfortunately he passed away, tragically and abruptly a few years back. And we had this interesting thing happen where a group of us ended up getting on a Zoom, not much unlike this, and we talked through all the ways that he helped us in his life. And I just was struck by it was so unfortunate that he didn't get to be there to see it, to hear it, to experience the impact that he had left on other people. So the reason I'm bringing all that in is, I want you to picture your 80th birthday. Like, who's there? Who's missing? What do you want them to be saying about you? And what do you want to say about you?
Ooh, wrong question. You folks off condolences for the loss of your friend.
Thank
Um,
you. Yeah, he was a good one.
you know, I kind of already had it happen.
Mm.
I was a varsity head coach and the coordinator for 15 years. So I got to be in the life of a lot of young men. Well, at the end of every season, they have a banquet and someone gets up who's volunteered to want to talk about one of the coaches. So I've had those moments of seeing what impact I've made on someone.
Mm.
When you have a young boy who's 17 or 16, turn to their dad in a room full of people and go, I mean, no disrespect to you, dad. I love you. Coach, you were like a dad for me. Um, it's a powerful thing. Second grade, Miss Russell asked all the kids, as second grade teachers do, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, a professional basketball player and a good dad. I'll never forget it. So I want my kids at my 80th birthday and my wife, any hopefully grandbabies. Uh, I want my friends who have been there with me when there was good and bad. I know my parents won't be there in physical form, but I know that they'll always be there with me. So will my granny and my nana. My sister, my nieces, my great nephew. What I want them to say about me, that I was kind, or I tried to do my best, that there's never a time where they couldn't count on me, that they knew when they were with me that they were loved and they felt protected. And I hope they tell some really crazy stories. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That the stories. I want to ask like what a crazy story is, but I'll let that simmer because I also don't want to miss the opportunity to talk through what I'm going to call a speed round. So before we wrap, I have a few questions that are more like quick hitting that unless you want to go into more detail, we don't need to. But I want to know in one sentence, what is one piece of advice that you would give 22-year-old Doc if you could?
You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. It's okay. You're gonna fly back. Or can I curse? I'm sorry. You're gonna mess up.
I haven't made a decision on that yet. So for now, I say fine. Say it. Say
Cool.
the real
Yeah.
word.
You're gonna fuck up. Like it's okay. You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Amen. Amen. That is everything, honestly, especially right now. As another question, what is your song? There's a part in Jerry Maguire when he's in the car after he left his job and he hears "Free Fallin'" by Tom Petty and he just jams out. And there's a feeling in that moment of like a huge transition or something big in your life. Do you have a song that comes to mind as something that you would put on in your moment of transition, in your moment of like, okay, this is real, this is happening, let's feel it. Do you have a song like that?
Damn could change don't come.
I knew it. I knew you would. Oh my goodness. On another note with the songs, because the songs have actually the music plays a huge part of all of what we've talked about today. And I have done a lot of healing work through music, and that's actually why the app that we work out in together, it's called Supernatural. And in my world, music, mindset, and movement have changed my life. They've completely helped me rebuild my life. And the music and the ability of music to help you process things that you can't process otherwise is so powerful. So I wanted to know if you would be willing to share your song of survival with me, the one that you put on when things are hard and you need to like get your mind wrapped around it.
Ooh. It's what would I put on here?
I'll let you think. Mine is Swim by Andrew McMahon. And I've gotten to hear it live a few times. I got to hear it live like 4 times in 2025. And it's like my soul left my body. I jumped, I danced, I was hyped, and it's just such a good song. So that's my
I
that's
can
my plug for Andrew. But you got it now. I can see it. It's in there.
yeah. Um it would be Tupac, Only God Can Judge Me.
Awesome. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And then, is that your hype song too, or do you have a different one that you use for a hype song?
Hype as in like if I was a boxer, I would walk out to it, or hype
Yeah,
as in like I'm just trying to get hype. Um,
either one or both. If there's one that checks both boxes, that's ideal.
if I was a fighter and came out, it'd be Busta Rhymes' Annie Up remix with MOP. But the hype song that I didn't know was going to be a hype song until my son's first year playing tackle football. He found it and he played it before every game. And I remember when they won the Super Bowl and he got MVP and like he got in the car and just like grabbed my phone, turned it on, and cranked the volume to 1,000 and rolled all the windows down as we drove out of the parking lot. It's called Stand on That by E40 and T.I. and is it Lucas Joyner? I believe Lucas Joyner. But yeah, that when we tend to get there's a lot of the music has a little more aggression sometimes.
Like I say, it helps us process the big feelings, and that is exactly what it's meant to do. And I'm really excited about this little segment of this show because I really want to showcase. I feel like there's jokes about people, you judge people by their bookshelf, and I do that just a smidge. But I also and then judge is probably the wrong word. I think you get to know people through what's on their bookshelf. And I think you get to know people through the music that they use in different situations, particularly when music is so fundamental to everything that all the work that I've done for sure. So I'm so grateful that you shared those songs with us. I plan on linking them in the show notes so that people can check out Doc's playlist with his couple songs of here's what he puts on when. So my hope is that it can help people, and that they feel seen in those songs and in that music too. So before we close, one thing that I think you've been too shy about, sir, is I'm grateful you shared with me about the book, but you also do a lot of other things. You keynote speak, you have courses, you have a gratitude journal I saw online. So tell me more about how people can find you, how people can work with you, and what your services are out there in the world.
Yeah, you can reach me. All of my social media is at one coach doc, ONE, like spelled out one coach doc. I've been blessed with having a PhD in behavior analysis and going, a non-traditional, more unconventional route with my career to have given over 30 plus keynote talks in the last 3 to 4 years.
That is not
Yeah.
small. That is not a small thing.
Yeah, traveling
Amazing.
all throughout the US and Canada. Though I have stepped away from giving those talks within the scientific community, and the newest endeavor along with the book that kind of coincides with that is I'm going to start talking hopefully to bigger crowds, bigger arenas, whether it be corporate spaces or inviting on my own or whoever has talks out there about what I'm calling practical excellence, right? Like um, in those small shifts kind of for a big life, elevate you every day. That are backed by science, but I'm not your typical scientist. Like I'm not going to get up there with their, pocket protector and spit jargon that you don't understand. Like I'm a person just like you are, and I'm going to tell you some ways that can really help to help make meaningful change in your life. It's backed by science, so like it works. Plus, I've done it. And so I'm trying to get into that space to do more of those talks to bigger audiences outside of our science, and sharing my story and how I've overcome that. And the through line for that is resilience. I do have a challenge journal, though that whole website's going to change now with the speaker stuff, but it's still on there. But it's a 100-day challenge journal that 99% of people won't get to, and I challenge you to do so. It's just really hard. It's hard. It puts you in situations like a challenge for the day could simply be, I want you to go and compliment a stranger. Not everyone's going to do that. I want you to put headphones on, play your favorite song, and sing it out loud in public, like walking down the street. That's a hard task for a lot of people. It's a hard ask, right? So those are the things that I'm doing again at One Coach Doc. And who knows what else is going to come forth. I'm always up for new opportunities. I did have podcasts for a while. I'm thinking about starting it back up. It's just been the first podcast I ever did was with a good friend of mine. After grad school, I went to radio and broadcasting school, and we met there. And like this was before TikTok and the podcast boom, and we got up to like 30,000 listeners internationally. We're really all organic because we didn't do any kind of social.
Yeah.
Funny enough, our top two demographics were university librarians and Australian truck drivers. Well, we didn't know, but everyone in Australia lives on the coast. There's no one who lives in the middle. So all the goods have to be traveled by big rigs. And someone found us and shared over the CB radio. And next thing you knew, like we were the podcast to listen to by Australian truck drivers, which was really cool. But he ended up moving and starting his family, moved out of state and doing it over Zoom instead of out of my garage. And so everything I've done ever since then, except for the halftime show of my book series, it's just never lived out for me. It's never been as enjoyable. So I may kick up a podcast. I may not. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm in favor of you kicking up a podcast. particularly so that you can get back to those truck drivers because
Right.
they need you back in their life. Like they
Well,
need Coach Doc back.
well, there was one I did for a little while a couple years ago called Doc's Daily Dose, which is still on Spotify, and it's little short bursts of like 4 to 5 minute thoughts and reflections. Um, but I would like to do something longer format, long form. So we'll see. Right now, I am focused on speaking. I am focused on getting this book out and being around my kids before they all start to. I mean, I got 3 teenagers now. Like they're all gonna head out soon. I don't want them to.
How did that
I,
happen? How did that happen?
I had a kid who's driving with a girlfriend. Like
Oh, no, no,
you
no.
know, and I want them to go explore the world. But like, I'm gonna miss you guys.
Well, you called yourself a helicopter dad early on, and I feel that because my husband's more that way than me. But the two of us together, my boys are lucky they have the balance because they have my husband who's much more of a steady rock, and then they have me who's kind of all over the place, but always for good, right? Like it may look like chaos, but every move has a purpose. Specifically, I really want to take your challenges, both of those challenges. I'm gonna go compliment a stranger today. And I'll put on some headphones and sing my favorite song in public. I'm
Yeah,
not that way. And then I want everybody else to do that too. Like I want that to be a good takeaway and a good like
it's fun.
homework from
Yeah,
this conversation. First of all, go get Coach Doc's challenge journal, but then also do the challenges, tag him, tag me. Let's go. Cause yes,
yeah.
let us get some good into the world. Let us put some good energy back into this world that seems hard and scary and all the things. We are in the driver's seat alongside our good Lord and Savior, who has the path all laid out for us. So, sir, it has been a pleasure. I am so grateful. And unless there's anything else that you want to add, I think I am ready to take on tomorrow with everything that you were so generous to pour into my heart. So I appreciate it and wish you all the best.
Thank you. I think the only other thing I wanted to share was I'm super grateful for being here. I'm super grateful for your request to be here, which gave me the courage to share what I've been too nervous to share. Um, and I am so excited to see where this all goes for you. I know a little bit about the past week for you. And when you told me that your mom had gotten that microphone for you for Christmas, I was like, oh, she was supposed to get that email. Her mom gave her the mic. She was supposed to get that email so she could actually do the thing. Like, oh, I hope she sees that. So I hope you did.
I
And I
do.
am super grateful.
I'm grateful too. Thank you, sir. Thank you. If you're seeing this, you're my friend. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate that you took time out of your day to spend with little old me. I would love to hear from you. I actually don't. This part is uncomfortable for me. Just talking like this is uncomfortable for me. Somehow more so than this. But I've practiced that. I have the TikTok and I do the things. And this is harder. So please talk to me. Find me on social. Tell me what you thought. Tell me what you think. Tell me what questions you have or what guests you want to see. I want this to feel like you're part of this because you are. You mean something to me, and I'm so grateful. So if you would be so kind as to go and give me a review and some stars and just let me know what you're thinking. I would really appreciate it. And I'd love to see you back here anytime to help you remember who you are while you build who you're meant to be. Quick, before you forget.